Okay, so while the main part of this is cooling down, I'm going to try and make the bottom tool, the V. So I've got here a bit of 30 by 6, so that's inch and a quarter, bright bar. Well, it doesn't look very bright because it's been sitting around for a while. But that is the same width as the bit of bar I've got for the bottom. So hopefully I shall be able to attach it quite easily. And now I'm using a bit of angle iron that's slightly smaller than I showed at the beginning of this video. That was 5/8. This is 1/2 inch. I just think the 1/2 inch will suit the job much better because I'm going to be basically hopefully using sheet metal with this machine. So I don't need a huge V. Now you can see I'm using the top tool there as a guide just to hold it all in place, and a couple of clamps, one each end, because this is going to go everywhere. The amount of heat I'm going to put into this with the welding, so I'm trying to eliminate as much of that bending as I can. So let's give a few tacks and see how far it goes. I'm not going to use the top tool for the whole of this because I don't want to put any heat into it and affect any temper that it might have in it. I don't know if it even has, but I don't want to affect it if it has. So I'm going to just use it to tack it all. And I'm going to find something else to use to hold it in place while I weld the rest of it. It's looking fairly straight at the moment, just with those few tacks. Take a look now. So I'm using a bit of angle iron, a bit of heavy. That's like a good bit of quarter angle. Just holding it in place. I'll put it that way around because it will pull towards me. I'm just going to run in sort of inch, inch and a quarter, inch and a half beads. I'm moving from one place to another, try and keep the distortion down as much as possible. So that's got the first run in there. So I've turned it over, done the same, and then put a cap or fill run over the top right up to the edge. And again you can see it's done in inch, inch and a half little runs, and that's filled it right up, so that should be nice and solid now. So I'm just going to turn it over and do the other side, and I'm amazed, you look down there, how straight it still is. Absolutely astonished. Right, so I've turned it over and done the other side, same again. Just run a nice bead all the way through there, right up to the edge of the angle iron, of the small angle iron, so it's nicely filled in, and as you can see it's still pretty straight. I'm really happy with. So whilst that's cooling down, again I'm just going to let that cool down. I've centered this up, used the barrel, the main body of the jack, and centered it. Just put a little chalk mark around it in case it moves. And I've got these little bits of 20x6, and I'm going to just use those. It doesn't need a lot. I don't think this is going to go anywhere once it's in place. I just want to get it central under the beam that it's going to be pushing on, so that everything pushes up nice and square. And when it's under pressure, I don't think it's going to go anywhere, but I just need something just to get it in the right place, because I want to be able to take this jack out and use it as a jack. So That's what I've decided I'm going to do. Should have taken the paint off because it's not arcing up properly. This is turning out to be a monster of a job, really. Not in any engineering way, but it's going to be so heavy. I was hoping I was going to be able to sort of just move it up and down off the bench, but I think I will, but I think I'll need my truss on when I move it. It's turning out to be quite a heavy old lump. But then I don't want it to fall apart. I want it to, you know, I'm using a 20-ton jack. I want it to last. Now just stop there because I can't actually see out of this screen. I'll just stop the camera and I've wiped it off. I suddenly realised that having used those 7018s, my screen was absolutely thick with like a, well, I don't know what it is, you know, like the smoke from the welding rods. It's like trying to look through a dishcloth. So I'll just give it a quick wipe. Yeah, as I say, the 20-ton jack is going to be, you know, a fair old force on this, so I want to make sure it's not going to go anywhere. I'm having, what's the word? I'm not sure how I'm going to fix the uprights into this bit of I-beam, because ideally I want to be able to take it apart if I need to drop the beam off for any reason. I just don't think welding it on the bottom is really the best way of going about it. I was thinking of trying to drill into the bottom of the EN16. I don't know how easy that's going to be. Now that's wobbling, I don't quite know why. Oh, there we go. Blooming flux off those rods. Put it down on the floor and it's picked up some flux. It's wobbling. That's better. Solid as a rock now. That the beam's rocking, but the jack isn't. Cool. So, next job. I've got to put a little hole down here somewhere so that I can operate the release, jack release. It's just like a little turn button. Same on all these jacks. Sharpen my pencil. So I'm just going to mark where I want it, and I'm just going to use a hole saw and punch a little hole in there. I think this is about a 32mm, something like that, this hole saw. Cracking things these are. Whoever invented these wants a medal. They've saved so much time over the years. They're brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. And they're probably not ideally suited for cutting through material this thick, but as long as you take your time and keep it lubricated. And I should have gone a little bit slower, but it's such a fag to slow this thing down with the belts that I tend to leave it on a medium speed. Right, so that's got that. Let's see if it'll work. Yep, no bother. Unfortunately it's a little bit low. It could have been a little bit higher, I think. But it actually works. Look at that. Does what it's supposed to. I might make a proper sort of like a key to use on that rather than this bit of bar. But yeah, it works. So, we're getting there. Let's just mock it up and see what it looks like. So that's how the top half is going to look. The beam, bottom beam There, that sits quite nice and straight. I haven't straightened that at all. That's as it was welded. So I'm really pleased with that. I'm going to put some tabs down from it and screw into the side of that beam so it doesn't go anywhere. And there you go. But as I say, I'm really not sure how to fix these into the bottom. I think drilling and tapping them with a long, big thread might be the way to go, but 20 tons could push them out. I'm not sure whether to put something on there to locate that. But anyway, that's what I'm going to ponder on for the next day or so. This isn't the end of the video, but I won't be filming anymore for a couple of days, and it'll give me a chance to have a good think about what I'm going to do next. So, a couple of days later, I've managed to salvage these springs because I got a quote for some springs to put in this, and they wanted about 28 quid just for 2 springs. So I managed to find these second-hand, I think they're valve springs out of something or other. I'm just going to tack a few together and use them as the return springs. Hopefully they'll do the job. I have decided to drill, tap and bolt the uprights in. I think that's really about the only way I'm going to go. That should do the job. Only need a tack on them just to stop them coming apart in use. So, unfortunately, because this has all been put together, I'm having to do it by hand. Otherwise I could have stuck the individual legs up in the lathe and drilled them that way. I'm not sure how this stuff's going to work because it's that EN16T. I'm quite aware of not getting it too hot, but this is going to take forever because it's having to keep pulling it out to clear the flutes. So I shall skip the arduous bit of me going up size by size, and we've got to the tapping side, or tapping size and side. Now, it's a bit tough, whether that's just because it's the EN16T or whether it's because I let it get a bit too hot and it's sort of hardened itself. I don't know. On the next one I'm going to take my time a bit more and cool it in between drillings, or cool it as I'm drilling it, see if that makes a difference, because this is really going in hard. See how much I need to go. Almost there. I'm putting in 16mm if you hadn't realised. I found some 16mm HT bolts. I've got quite a lot of them kicking about. So, see if that'll fit. As you can see, they're only 8.8. I might try and get some 10s or even 12s before I use it in anger. It's gone a bit tight there. I think that's where it got hot and it hasn't cut the thread very well. Never mind, it'll go in with a spanner. Right, so a top tool, or bottom tool, beg your pardon. I'm going to attach that there, but while I'm at it, I decided I'm going to put some greases in. I was just going to drop some oil in the top when I used it, but I've got these greases, so I thought I might as well just put them in, and it might just help a little bit. I can pump a little squirt of grease in each time. Not quite sure how these are going to drill either, because I know these were really hard when I drilled them out. Actually, they're not too bad, to be fair. That's tapping size for 8th gas. Don't ask me what size the drill is, but I knew it was the right size because it was in a socket. So 8th gas tap. Try and get it running somewhere central. Take out the burr. Make sure it's nice and smooth. Don't want that catching up on the shaft. I know the spanner's a bit overkill, but I couldn't find a little one the right size. Cool, that'll do. So, let's just check that the ball moves, because these have been kicking around for a while, and they do. So what else I'm going to do is, I found this bit of heavy galvanised inch gas barrel, and I'm going to just cut off about a couple of inches, about, I don't know, 3 inches, 2 of them, and I want to use them to support the uprights. So what I want to do is make them slide just tightly over the uprights, bolt the uprights in place, and then when it's all working and in the right, you know, everything's tightened down in the right place, I'm going to weld these to the base just to give the uprights some support. I don't really want nothing but the bolts to be holding them up, so I just thought this would be quite a good idea, just to give those uprights a bit more support, and so the bolts are literally just holding them in place rather than having to take all the sideways forces as well. So I'm just going to take the galvanising off about 1/2 inch up, 3/8 up, something like that, where I'm going to weld it. And then I need to bore it out, because although it's inch gas, it's just a little bit undersized. It won't slip over the gas, over the uprights. I'm just taking it's basically just taking the galvanising out from the inside, and that should do it. So, next job. I'm going to put these brackets. I made these little lugs just out of 3/4 1/8. I've clamped 2 of them on here, about 3/4 of an inch in from the bar, and on the other side I'm going to put them closer in, just basically so that you don't get confused as to which way around the tool's got to go when you take it off and put it back on. So now I'm just going to re-clamp it, use that clamp. So I'm going to put these 4 inches in rather than the 3/4 of an inch in. It just makes life easier when you come to put the thing together. There's such an obvious difference, you can't go wrong. And that's gone nice and tight, that ain't going to go nowhere. Let's just give it a little bit of a persuasion. That's got it. So, I'm just going to drill that now where I marked it for 6mm. I'm just going to use some 6mm. I don't think it needs to be any bigger. It literally has just got to hold the bottom tool in place. And I don't want to weaken this bottom bar. I'm struggling a bit there to try and get it lined up without buggering up the grease nipples. I should have taken them out really. Put them back in when I'm done, but I've managed it. Luckily the table swings quite nicely on this, and the head swings, so you can get things into positions quite nicely. So we get these to run true. one doesn't look too bad. Looks as if it's leaning a little bit to the right, but I don't think it'll really matter. I'm using a spiral point rather than a spiral flute, so you'll notice that the swarf is going down into the hole, not coming out of it, because these are for, ideally for through hole tapping, these taps. That's why I'm just giving it a squirt out to get all the swarf out. I've just got some about 1/2 inch or 5/8, something like that, socket headed screws or bolts, set screws or whatever you call them. Oh, that's not focusing. I might have it still left on manual focus from the last shot, but anyway, you can see what I'm doing. Let's tighten them up. Don't need to be too tight. So it's literally just to hold them in place. The same the other side. I'm hoping to get this finished today, because this has actually taken me quite a few days longer, well, not days longer, quite a few hours longer than I expected. So I'm hoping to get this all finished. We're nearly there. Right, so now all I've got to do is bite the bullet and drill the base. So let's get that set up. I've got it clamped up, and so this base twists around and the head moves and all sorts. You can get things in some quite nice positions. Just got a little Morse taper drill there. I think that's, can't think what size I've gone up to, but it's about 17.5mm. So we've got a bit of wiggle room in the hole, because I want to be able to move the uprights just fractionally to see if it makes any difference as to how the slides actually slide up and down. And then once I've got it right, then I shall weld those sleeves to the base, and hopefully that'll keep it all nice and cushy. Right, so let's start putting it all together. I don't think I need to do much else, but it's blooming heavy, I can tell you that. I'm not going to be knocking this around the workshop very easily. So I'm just going to... Oh, I've forgotten to put the sleeves on. Typical. So you can see there the sleeves just sit over the inch. Get it all tightened up. That's gone tight now. You see, this is what I was worried about. I'm going to try and pull them in and out just so that the slide will slide nicely before I weld those sleeves in. Right, I put it all together and I made a complete balls up, so I'm not very happy. I'm not going to get it finished today because I'm too tired now. It's too late in the day to put it all together. I'm just glad I didn't weld those in before I realised this is 3/4 of an inch out. That should be only sitting 1/4 of an inch, this sticking out. You can see it's way out. How the hell I did that, I do not know. The only thing I can think of is that when I positioned these the other day and drew around them and got it all lined up, I measured it from both ends, measured it from the sides. Only thing I don't think I did was check for upright. So I'm thinking that although it was all measuring right from each end and all the rest of it, it wasn't upright. So I've got to take the whole bloody thing apart again, fill up those holes and re-drill them. But it ain't going to be today. Right, so I've re-welded and re-drilled the holes, and I've taken the springs out because this was binding terribly with the springs in it. As you can see, it was still catching a little bit, but it's pretty free. I don't quite know what the problem there was. So I'm going to try it without the springs and see how we get on. I can always put them back in later or try and figure it out some other way. So I literally just filled the holes with weld, re-drilled them, and then put the sleeves in, which have been a brilliant idea. They've really stiffened the thing up rather than having to just rely on the bolts. And as you can see, it's centered now. It's about 1/4 inch hanging over each side, so it's right up the middle. And I have had this top tool, if it'll focus you, there you go. Yeah, I've had it reground. It was 90 and it wasn't enough, so when you bent anything it wouldn't come up to 90 because you need to overbend to get 90. You can see there's bang in the middle now. So I might still have to get it to ground a little bit more, but for what I've designed this for, sheet metal and light sheet metal, about 16 gauge, it's perfect because I don't want it to bend over or up to 90 for what I'm got in mind. And because I've designed it where you can alter the tools, I will be able to chop and change and put all sorts of different ones in. So let's give it a pump of grease, see if that helps with the binding. I haven't put any in yet. You see, the grease comes through easy enough, so it's not that tight. Maybe they're not tight enough, don't know. As you know, all my projects are hit and miss. Never done these sort of things before, so trial and error. You can see it runs up and down quite easily. This is a bit of 16 gauge. It makes quite light work of that. And the beauty of it is, if you get it nearly there, you can hand pump it. So if you're not quite, going to 90 or under 90, or whatever angle you want, you can get it somewhere near with the air over, and then just tweak it with the hand. You see that? That's the problem. It's just, there you go. Bindings for some reason. Anyway, that's pretty good. As I say, it might need, I can't really see it there very well, might need a little bit more grinding off on that tool if I want to do consistent 90-degree work, but you can see it's quite nice and sharp, nice on the inside as well, nice and smooth. So I think it's been a success, and it's cost me virtually nothing. Well, I haven't had the bill from the scrapyard yet, but I don't think it'll be a monstrous amount. This is a bit of 2mm aircraft grade aluminium, which is tough old stuff. I don't know if it's dural or what it is, but it's blooming tough. You can see it's pulled that up quite easily. The hardest bit is getting it out again. Just going to give it a tap. There we go, it's released it. Unless the top tool isn't sort of level and it's pushing it up one-sided, I don't know, and it's binding that way. You see it's just under that one, but this is pretty tough stuff. I guess this aircraft aluminium is a little bit springier than mild steel. But I'm pleased with it. It's going to do the job I want. As I say, it was designed for a specific purpose. I might have to get this taken off a little bit more if I want to do over 90s on this material. But as for now, it's perfect. Exactly what I want. So there we go. What can I say about it more? I'm going to try and find a decent bottom tool, although this I think will probably last quite a while, but because I'm not going to be using it that much and it's only going to be on mild steel. But I shall keep an eye out for one anyway, if one turns up on the good old bay or somewhere similar. And as I find new jobs for it, I shall no doubt make new tools. So there you go, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one.